What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Brandon Smith. I am recording this on April 19th, and it is snowing outside. Snowing. This country, I tell you. Before we talk about today's case, I just want to give a big shout out to you people. Yes, you. The overwhelming support, including those of you who reached out to me on this channel's Instagram page, which you can visit right here, has been extraordinary. So thank you big time from this humble Canadian. It means a ton to me. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get into today's case. The day is Thursday, April 20th, 1989. The song, "She Drives Me Crazy." That was a terrible impression. I apologize to all of my UK viewers. By English pop rock trio, Fine Young Cannibals is #1 on the Billboard chart. The film, Major League, starring Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, and Corbin Benson, is #1 at the box office. And just last night, 29-year-old Patricia Meehan is attacked in New York City while jogging. 5 African-American teens will be charged and convicted in the crime. However, their actual guilt is still questioned to this day, and the controversial group will come to be known as the Central Park Five. 3,000 kilometers northwest of New York City in Circle, Montana, 37-year-old Patricia Meehan drives headfirst into another vehicle. Uninjured, Meehan emerges from her car and walks into an empty field nearby, disappearing forever in Big Sky Country. This day in mystery. Thursday, April 20th, 1989 in Circle, Montana is cool and overcast. With a daytime high of 12 degrees Celsius, the long winter of the Treasure State is desperately clinging to the last vestiges of the season. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on November 1st, 1951, 37-year-old Patricia Bernadette Meehan is a long way from home. Meehan attended college in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where she studied childhood development in preparation for a career in daycare. However, in 1985, she abandons the city and the education and relocates to Bozeman, Montana. Patricia has always loved animals, so no one is surprised when she takes a job as a ranch hand. But this line of work hardly pays a king's ransom, and Meehan is struggling to make ends meet. So the enterprising 30-something gets creative. Patricia takes on a number of additional odd jobs to supplement her income. However, financial consideration is not the only thing troubling the rancher in her new home state. Patricia is struggling with depression and anxiety. Meehan is becoming withdrawn. Her parents, back in Pennsylvania, are concerned. On April 19, 1989, Meehan's father, Thomas, places a long-distance call to his daughter. In the call, Patricia admits that she is struggling mentally. She tells her father that she is under a great amount of stress and wants to move back home to Pittsburgh. Thomas knows that his daughter has a psychologist appointment booked for that Friday, so the elder Meehan tells the younger Meehan that she can only come back home after the woman attends this consultation. Patricia agrees to the condition. On April 20th, the day before her scheduled appointment, Patricia meets with her landlord outside of her rented apartment at 9 a.m. The landlord, Walter, notices that his usually shy and whisper-quiet tenant seems hyper and slightly disorientated. With a giddy speech pattern, Patricia tells Walter that she is going away for a couple of days. Aware of Patricia's scheduled commitment for the following day, he finds the timing odd, but does not question his renter any further. He waves goodbye as Patricia climbs into the front seat of her tan Chevy Nova. At 8:15 p.m., more than 600 kilometers away, Peggy Bueller and her parents are driving along Montana Highway 200 in Circle. Just ahead of them on the road is a car driving in the opposite direction and headed right for them. Instinctively, Peggy yanks the steering wheel to avoid the rogue vehicle and careens into a ditch. Driving right behind the Bueller family is off-duty police dispatcher Carol Heights. She too sees the car going the wrong way and pulls off the road. The emergency maneuver, however, is of no consequence, and the wayward vehicle slams headfirst into her car. Carol counts her blessings as she survives the impact. Groggy but not seriously injured, she exits the vehicle and collects herself from a seated position just beside her damaged automobile. As she takes in her sudden surroundings, she sees a stranger approach. The stranger is Patricia Meehan. The two participants of the crash lock eyes, but it seems not as if the other driver is looking at her, but rather right through her. After a few terse moments, the woman walks out of Carol's vantage. Meanwhile, the woman who narrowly avoided the original collision, Peggy Bueller, has turned her car around and is headed back to the scene of the collision. From her vehicle, she sees a woman standing in the field adjacent to the crash. The woman is Patricia Meehan. The starkly still woman onlooks the scene like a bystander, not as one would expect considering she is the distinct cause of the accident in front of her. Without saying a word or giving any expression of emotion, the woman stoically turns and walks away, disappearing over the horizon. Circle police are on the scene within the hour, but the woman in the field is long gone. Authorities run the abandoned vehicle's plates through the Department of Motor Vehicles registry, and the car traces back to Patricia Meehan. Peggy tells the authorities the direction in which the deserter absconded, and a woman hunt begins. Police discover a trail of tennis shoe prints in a desolate field just over a kilometer from the scene of the crash. The size of the tracks are consistent with a woman Meehan's height, so police follow the trail. The pursuit lasts until 3 a.m. in the morning, but ends when the prints abruptly disappear into the terrain. Hopelessly dark now, the search is called off until sunrise. The following day, scent dogs are brought in, but they too are unable to establish Meehan's path. Local volunteers search the surrounding territory by horse and ATV alongside the police. The area is chock full of abandoned mines dating back to the Gold Rush era, all of which are searched and all of which yield no trace of the young woman. Patricia's parents are telephoned back in Pittsburgh. Circle police inform them of the accident and subsequent disappearance of their daughter thereafter. Dolly and Thomas Meehan are on the next flight to Circle, Montana. They arrive and distribute over 2,000 missing person flyers throughout the area. They contract a local helicopter pilot to search the area, but no one in the community reports seeing her, and no trace of Patricia Meehan can be found. Police theorize that Meehan fled the scene by hitchhiking or stowing away on a nearby hay truck, but there are no sightings or evidence to support this, and the question still remains: where is Patricia Meehan? In the time leading up to her death, Patricia Meehan had been struggling with depression. Patricia, by her own account, had been under a great deal of stress, and according to her family, while she didn't identify any specific stressors, she knew that something was mentally wrong with her and that she needed help. As a result, police had no other choice than to examine the possibility that Patricia, wrought with unchecked stress and ridden with depression, chose to take her own life. More to this point, considering the nature of the accident Meehan had been involved in, police had to wonder if she had already tried. Patricia tried to drive straight into the Bueller family car. Patricia did drive straight into Carol Heitz's car. At the very least, this was certainly a woman not doing everything in her power to protect her well-being. After their search and circle had concluded, Patricia's mom and dad, Dolly and Thomas, visited Patricia's apartment in Bozeman to search for clues. They found nothing to indicate what their daughter's intentions were or clues to her whereabouts now, but they did find an undeveloped roll of film. On that film, one of the raw pictures showed a self-portrait of Patricia Meehan looking into the mirror. Though showcasing nothing more than a steely-eyed, expressionless female, the photo is somehow ominous and bleak. Dolly Meehan speculated that in her late 30s, the childless Patricia had discovered how much she truly wanted children, and that such an opportunity may no longer be possible. She postulates that the eerie picture represents her daughter looking back at a life that had sadly passed her by. While there was no sign of Patricia Meehan in Circle, Montana, that certainly wasn't the case elsewhere in the United States. On May 4th, 1989, 2 weeks after the crash, a police officer in Luverne, Minnesota, claimed to have seen Meehan inside a Hardee's restaurant. The following day, a woman resembling Patricia was sighted in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, by a waitress at a truck stop diner. Later that evening, another sighting of Meehan took place, this time 3 hours west of Sioux Falls in Murdo, South Dakota, and yet again at a truck stop diner. Another 2 weeks later, on May 19th, a waitress and hostess at a restaurant just kilometers from Meehan's home in Bozeman reported the woman as being at their place of work. Neither the waitress nor the hostess had known Patricia personally, but after being shown a picture of Meehan, each was sure that the woman they served was Patricia Meehan. On May 23rd, another reported sighting of Patricia occurred at a horse auction in Billings, Montana. On May 30th, a woman resembling Meehan was seen by a passing truck driver and female motorist in rural Washington state. On June 6th, a civil employee claimed to have seen Meehan in Tacoma, Washington, again at a truck stop. Other reported sightings came in from Washington state during this time, and law enforcement believed that Patricia had reason to be in that state, as her sister lived in Seattle and her ex-boyfriend lived in Spokane. Within 2 months of her disappearance, over 25 sightings of Patricia Meehan had been reported, 3 of which were later confirmed by police and Patricia's own parents. On August 30th, 1990, a transient woman is arrested for littering in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The woman bears a striking resemblance to Meehan, and the arresting officer, Steve Koskamaki, believes that the elusive missing woman may be finally found. Lieutenant Greg Surplus is even more certain, saying this woman is the spitting image of Patricia. When she appears in a Kootenai County court, the doppelganger identifies herself as Morning Star. Further fueling the comparison, the woman claims to be a missionary who travels exclusively from Montana to Washington. Meehan's former boyfriend Kurt Fletchell is brought in to conclusively identify the woman in the jail. Upon seeing her, Fletchell acknowledges the strong resemblance and attests that the woman's voice is very similar to his former lover. However, Kurt is clear in his decree that Morning Star is 100% not his former girlfriend, Patricia Meehan. Just to be certain, Idaho officials telephone Meehan's family in Pittsburgh, and after speaking with the woman in question, they are also positive that she is not their missing daughter. All right, so what do I think happened? The story of Patricia Meehan is truly upsetting. A mild-mannered woman is involved in a serious car accident and literally disappears from the scene without a trace. For me, it's the precipitance of the whole ordeal that is most jarring. One day, Patricia is talking to her parents about coming home, and the next day, she is gone. It's truly heartbreaking. To unravel the mystery, I think we have to start with the genesis of this whole darn thing, the car accident. Unfortunately, I think this traffic accident was an attempt by Patricia Meehan to end her life. Meehan attempted to drive into the Bueller family vehicle before successfully crashing into Carroll Heights. I have to believe that an event with this much purpose is a deliberate act. An understated element of this case is Patricia's extraordinary distance from home. At the time of the accident, she was more than 600 kilometers away from her apartment in Bozeman. This is no small feat, as the drive would have taken over 5 hours. This would have given Patricia a goodly amount of time to consider her life. And I believe that on April 20th, the onset depression had gotten the best of her, and she consciously made the decision to commit suicide. Now, when it comes to theories, there's not really a myriad of ideas about what happened to Patricia Meehan to draw from. Much like Maura Murray, a case that I previously covered on this channel, we know for certain that Patricia Meehan walked away from a car accident. What became of each woman in the days, weeks, and years that followed is the real source of mystery. In the Maura Murray case, I hypothesized that she had fell victim to the elements shortly after her car accident. In the Patricia Meehan case, I hypothesized that she survived the elements and made it out of Circle, Montana. The surrounding area from which Meehan disappeared was thoroughly searched. Is it possible that she was able to somehow evade detection and her body remains somewhere in the vicinity to this day? Of course. And I often think people underestimate just how hard it is to find a body amongst scarcely traveled terrain. However, the plains of Circle, Montana, where Patricia Meehan disappeared, are very much not the rugged forests of Haverhill, New Hampshire, where Maura Murray disappeared. And I just believed in the 30-plus years since she went missing, the body of Patricia Meehan would have been discovered if they remained in the general area. So, because of all this, I'm ruling out a death from the elements scenario. For me, the most captivating aspect of this story is the sheer number of sightings. I study a lot of missing persons cases, and frankly, I've never seen anything like it. We have reputable sources on numerous occasions in multiple states reporting with confidence that they saw Patricia Meehan. 3 of these sightings are later confirmed by police and Patricia's parents. Now, I must tell you that in my research, I was never able to determine the mechanism by which the police or Patricia's parents were able to confirm these accounts. Confirmation is a relative term, and being that nothing ever came of these sightings, I really think we have to take these authentications with a grain of salt. Now, I want to talk to you about the phenomenon that is eyewitness sightings in general, and for that, I need to tell you a story. On March 25th, 1988, a woman named Lisa Marie Kimmel left her home in Denver, Colorado, bound for her boyfriend's home in Cody, Wyoming. We know that Kimmel made it to Douglas, Wyoming, as she was stopped by a police officer in that county for speeding. However, she never made it to her boyfriend's home, and on March 26th, she was reported missing. Now here's where the plot thickens. Lisa Marie Kimmel drove a black 1988 Honda CRX with a vanity plate bearing the personalization Lil Miss. In the days and weeks following her disappearance, Lisa Marie and her vehicle with the custom license plate were spotted by multiple people in 5 different states and 2 provinces in Canada. In total, over 100 different sightings were reported. On April 2nd, 1988, the body of Lisa Kimmel was found in Casper, Wyoming. Tragically, she had been murdered. In 2002, researchers matched a DNA sample found on Kimmel's body to inmate Dale Wayne Eaton, a man serving time in jail on an unrelated weapons charge. Eaton's next-door neighbors reported that they had seen him digging a large hole on his property during the time in which Lisa Marie Kimmel had gone missing. When investigators searched the property, a Honda CRX was found buried 15 feet below the surface, still bearing the distinctive Little Miss license plate. In 2004, Dale Wayne Eaton was found guilty of murdering Lisa Marie Kimmel and sentenced to death. So why do I tell you this story? Well, I think that anecdotally, it perfectly demonstrates the problem with eyewitness sightings. Over 100 people reported seeing Lisa Marie Kimmel and her car after her disappearance. We now know that any and all of these sightings were impossible, as at their time, Lisa Marie was already dead and her car was buried meters below the Earth's surface. As I've said before on this channel, I do not believe these observers are ill-intentioned. It's just, as humans, we are conditioned to be of service, and in circumstances of dire importance, this innate need to be helpful is even more paramount. And while I do believe that some of the sightings of Patricia, especially the ones in the immediacy of her disappearance, are credible, I think the strong majority are incredible, and again, are just the result of well-intentioned citizens trying to be cooperative. Additionally, in my research, I noticed a distinct sag in reported sightings in the months following May of 1989. On the strength of this data point discrepancy, I believe that on the evening of April 20th, 1989, Patricia Meehan is amazed to find herself relatively unscathed in the aftermath of the car accident she caused. She flees the scene, but hours later finds herself back on Highway 200, where she hitchhikes her way out of Circle, Montana. The considerable depression she experienced before and the after effects of the collision has sadly left Patricia in a dissociative fugue state. A type of amnesia, dissociative fugue, involves a loss of memory and personality and is often expressed in unplanned travel or wandering. This indicative behavior leads Patricia to crisscross the United States in the weeks that follow her disappearance. With a general sense of where she needs to go but not sure of why, Patricia finds herself in Washington State in early June. Once again, she sees herself hitchhiking. A trucker pulls off the side of the road and offers the young woman a ride to wherever she needs to go. The trusting Meehan enters the compartment and asks the man to simply accompany him in his travels. The man thinks the request is strange, but honors the woman's wishes, and the two unfortunate companions set off for parts unknown. After just a short amount of time, the driver realizes that something is off with his passenger. The woman seems to have no idea where she is going. Not only that, she seems to have no idea who she is as well. Until now, Patricia has had the good fortune of encountering kindly Good Samaritans, but this is sadly not the case now, and the predator beside her is about to exploit the helpless woman's ill-omened malady. In the dead of night, he steers the vehicle onto the shoal of the highway. He advances himself on the woman, but even in her nebulous state, Patricia Meehan knows that she wants nothing of this scenario. She fights off the approach and escapes the vehicle. The man likewise flees the massive truck, and unrequited, he chases his charge. In a short amount of time, he overcomes his former accompaniment and tackles her to the ground. Under the dark Washington sky, he strangles Patricia Meehan to death. He carries the body back to the truck and slumps the deceased woman into her erstwhile seat. In melancholy silence, he drives the big rig through the jet black night before turning onto a desolate side road. Under the cover of night, he buries the body of Patricia Meehan deep in the evergreen state forest. Patricia Meehan had lived in many different states during her brief life, and when she disappeared, many communities were left wondering what became of their charming, good-natured once neighbor. However, the mystery and grief was most prevalent in the experience of her parents, Thomas and Dolly Meehan. Sadly, each of the two are no longer with us. Dolly Meehan passed away on April 13th, 2007, and Thomas Meehan passed away on July 13th, 2012. Each of the two went to their graves, never knowing what happened to their daughter. By 2022, over 5,000 sightings of Patricia Meehan have been reported. However, authorities admit that they are no closer now than they were in April 1989 of knowing the whereabouts of Patricia Meehan. No reward is currently being offered in this case. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Patricia Meehan. Please be sure to like and subscribe for me. It really helps out the channel, and it means so much to me. With this case fresh in your mind, please remember that if you are struggling right now for any reason, you are not alone, and resources are available to help. Be unabashedly selfish in taking care of yourself. It's so important. All the while, try to be kind to those you come in contact with, as we never know what that individual is also going through. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'll see you next time.